everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name is FPL Phillips or Eddie, and once again, hopefully, I'm bringing you another episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm, the series here where I'm taking on the computer-generated algorithm team put together by the Fantasy Football Fix's complicated mathematics that's predicted to score the highest amount of points for each FPL game week. I'm then putting together my own free hit draft with my own human brain, and we're seeing which can win the most game weeks out of all 38 across the entirety of the 2024-25 season. So far, it's very, very tight. It's even actually 3-3 after last game week. The algorithm picking up the victory thanks to its selection of Cole Palmer. I didn't go Cole Palmer, and that's pretty much the entire story of the game week and almost all you needed to know with regards to the points difference there. But with that being said, let's get into Game Week 7, have a look at both teams, and then also have a quick delve into the captaincy and whether or not Haaland is the obvious choice for this game week. So yeah, thank you again for choosing to watch one of these Eddie versus the Algorithm videos. I hope you are enjoying them. If you are, then please do leave a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed for some reason, then hit that red subscribe button as well. It really does help us out here and lets me know that you guys are enjoying the videos if I see some likes on them. So thank you for that in advance if you do choose to leave a thumbs up. But the algorithm is lining up with a 3-4-3 this week. 71 predicted points for the team. And in goal is going to be Robert Sanchez of Chelsea, a keeper option that the algorithm seems to be liking a look of at the moment. And I think there's a reason for optimism this week. Nottingham Forest have been a team who've not been scoring that many goals, not been registering much XG. They're in the bottom 5 of the teams in the league for all those categories so far, despite having what some people were arguing was a very, very kind set of opening fixtures. So Nottingham Forest overall not impressing too much. I could see them grabbing a goal away at Stamford Bridge. I could definitely see Chelsea conceding. But I think Sanchez is just a good option for 4.5 million. And yeah, there's some decent value in there for me in the Chelsea backline when you've got a keeper option who seems to be nailed on at this point in time for the remainder of the season. So moving to the defence, where he's actually joined by a teammate, Levi Colwill, who would be my pick of the Chelsea defenders too coming in. Another one who's going to be good value at 4.5 million, I think, for people looking to jump on a Chelsea defensive option. I think the issue with bringing them into your own personal team, where you don't get to change all the 11 players each week, is that Chelsea are almost coming to the end of that kind of fixture run that they've had. Nottingham Forest is one of the kind of last games before they do hit a bit of a tricky patch. So think of that if you're bringing in a Chelsea defender. But for this week, Sanchez and Colwill, the double up, I don't hate it at all. We then got Christian Ajer of Brentford. So yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that name, to be honest, even though it's probably a simple one. But he's in anyway looking pretty nailed on at left back, whilst Rico Henry is out and remains out. He's got the best underlying numbers of all the Brentford defenders as well. Ethan Pinnock, someone like that's not performing to the level that we've seen him perform at last season. You've got Van der Berg, of course, at 4.0 million, but he doesn't offer the same attacking threat. In fact, it's Collins, the other centre-back, who's been actually performing to the somewhat near the level of Ayer. He's had slightly higher XG, but Ayer's assist threat does carry him through, and he's got the best expected goal involvements out of any Brentford defensive option. So if you don't have Flecken and you want to jump on a Brentford asset, he doesn't look like a bad one. Wolves have had some tough games to start of the season, but their underlying data does kind of stink. So the chance of a Brentford clean sheet this game week could look pretty decent. If you've got Flecken, I think there's a good reason to have hope. But they do like to concede pretty late on Brentford, so I wouldn't count your chickens just yet, or at any point during those first 80 or 90 minutes, really. Gabriel is then the last defender. Bog standard pick at this point in time. If Arsenal have a kind fixture, it's pretty much set in stone that Gabriel's going to be in this side. Southampton at home, no reason to go against that here. Probably the worst side in the Premier League at the moment, I'd argue. Gabriel still being found from corners, still being aimed for, still getting chances. And yeah, it's just still great value at 6.2 million that he is now. So first name on the team sheet for Arsenal really is going to be him or Bukayo Saka, who I imagine we're going to see in midfield as well. And there we are. Saka, the first name in the midfield. In fact, Southampton at home for Arsenal, a great chance for some goals in that one. We've then got him being joined by the other popular premium midfielder at the moment in Cole Palmer. Off the back of, there's 4 goals last game week. Absolutely fantastic showing from him. And I think he's just shown why he's an asset that you have to persevere with, even through maybe 1 or 2 blanks, which people don't take well from premium assets. because Palmer has got that kind of quality where if Chelsea have an open game and there's chances there, he's going to put an awful lot of them away because he just oozes that quality. He could have even had more, to be honest, in game week 6, so maybe non-owners were even saved a little bit. So Nottingham Forest, as I mentioned, haven't been a great performing side so far this season. They have done okay defensively, though. On the road, they're not too bad. So Forest could put up a better fight at Stamford Bridge, but I'd be hoping, if I was a Chelsea fan, they'd be able to build on that result last week against Brighton and go back into game week 7 and get a good result there. So I think Palmer's a good one to have in the team for this week. We've then got Bowen up against Ipswich at home, which I think is one that not many people will be going for because West Ham have been utterly disappointing, to be honest, at the start of the season. I think if they'd shown some sort of promise, Bowen would have been a popular asset right now, and we would have been talking about him a lot more than we have been. But West Ham just haven't shown that kind of toothlessness and that attacking force that we saw from them at points last season. Kudus and Paqueta and Bowen haven't quite been gelling together. And so even though Ipswich at home is a pretty nice fixture, especially from an attacking point of view, I think that I just personally wouldn't go there. But if you want a very, very cheeky punt this week, then Bowen could be the one. And of course, this is a 1 game week in isolation series. So speaking for this game week, I quite like the pick as an out there one that you wouldn't really get to talk about or discuss in any other game week. And then we've got Mbomo, who will be discussed in a lot of game weeks to come. I imagine Brentford still have their nice fixture run. He's been scoring goals. No reason to go against him, really. On penalties, 90-minute man. Yeah, there's not really much more to say than that. He's got Wolves at home. Why would you not have him in your team at the price he's at? He offers tremendous value. And then finally, up front, we've got Erling Haaland taking the captain's armband, as usual. Fulham at home is definitely not the easiest fixture. Fulham, in fact, have looked pretty solid defensively, I would argue. They've got new additions into that back line. I think that might have helped them. But overall, I just think Fulham have been okay. And Man City didn't look that brilliant against Newcastle. It's not regularly that we see them perform badly or poorly 2 game weeks in a row. So I'd say that. And of course, we shouldn't lose sight of what Erling Haaland has accomplished in these first 5 game weeks of the season. And so the captain's armband on him, obviously looking at a pretty wise choice this game week, but we'll take a deeper look at that in the last section of this video. We then got Kai Havertz up against Southampton. So Havertz is probably the most talked about Arsenal asset as a matter of discussion and actual argument, whether him or a second defensive Arsenal asset is the way to go for the optimal triple up. Has long since been a topic of debate ever since wildcard discussions were really a thing. There was worries with the Odegaard injury that Havertz would drop into a deeper role, and we haven't seen the same showings that we saw glimpses of in game week 1, etc. from him recently. Southampton at home could be a great opportunity, but I think players like Martinelli and Trossard are coming into their own a bit. They're getting attacking returns. It's limiting Havertz's output as an FPL option, and that is the one only thing I would say about Havertz is he's not quite been in that kind of purple patch that you want to catch Havertz in, because I think he's very much a player that when he's in form, you can go and get 2 or 3 attacking returns from him a few game weeks on the bounce. And so hopefully he can find his form again. Southampton at home would certainly be a good fixture to do that. And then finally, Jamie Vardy, who is a player I will be avoiding, and I kind of recommend you guys do too. Not only have Bournemouth kind of impressed me more offensively than defensively, but Leicester just aren't registering the XG. The one thing you've got with Vardy is he's a very, very clinical player. So even with small amounts of XG, he can produce good output as an FPL asset. I just think there are better options in that price point. I think if you can find that little bit more funds, you do just go up to a Chris Wood or someone at that 6 million mark. I even like the look of Evan Ilson at Bournemouth now after he's grabbed his first goal. I quite like the look of him, especially if you could rotate with Tyler Dibling at Southampton. There's a very good little rotation option that works in there that I'm very much bigging up and trying to sell to people. And I would be on right now if I was on a wild card for what it's worth. So something to consider and take a look at if you've not yet thought about it. But we'll round things off with the bench for this side. We've got Van der Berg, Winks and Vass down there. So really nothing exciting. Let's have a quick look at my team then and see how it compares. And my team, I've gone for a bit of a different approach this week. I've still got a Brentford defensive asset in. I've just gone with Flecken in goal. I didn't really consider too much going for the Chelsea defence because I do think that Forest could just grab a goal there. Like a Hudson-Odoi, I can see him just bombing down the wing, getting into the box, and either scoring or assisting. I can just see that in my head. I don't know why. Complete gut feeling. But yeah, I've avoided the Chelsea defence for kind of that reason. I've gone with a punt in the back in the form of Urian Timber, who is one that I don't think will be owned by many, but at 5.5 million, seemingly nailed on in this Arsenal team. You know, it might not be for long, but for this game, I think he'll start Southampton at home for sure. So I've gone with him. Has actually had a few attacking chances as well, so I'm hoping that he'll come good this game week. I've gone with Trent and Rico Lewis, just for their attacking threat. I think Lewis will start. And then in midfield, I've gone for Semenyo, who's been in fantastic form lately. As I mentioned, Bournemouth have been a very, very strong side. I was a little bit tempted to actually go for Evan Nilsson up front, but I ended up going for, I'd say, the more consistent player in Semenyo. I've still got Saka, Palmer, and Mbeumo, but I've gone for Brennan Johnson as a bit of a punt, an out there one. Not sure about Son's availability for this game week, so that's still a bit up in the air. I need to check out some news for that one. But Johnson has looked good recently. He's been getting into attacking positions. He obviously scored what was a tap-in, granted, against Manchester United from that amazing Van de Ven run. But I still think that Johnson could be a good investment, and he looked good in pre-season. I was backing him to hit the ground running this season. Hasn't really shone massively yet, but at the 6.5 million options who started the season at that price, I like the look of him. I'm hoping he can come good now. And Brighton, as we saw last game week against Chelsea, were really not strong defensively and almost just kaput after a few minutes. So yeah, nothing worthwhile on the bench at all. I've also got Erling Haaland captaincy, and speaking of captaincy, let's take a look at the options for this game week. So yeah, I've compared Erling Haaland alongside Bukayo Saka, Cole Palmer, and then Kai Havertz. There's a little bit of a lower ownership option that you could go for, but I think Saka or Palmer will be the ones that people are considering maybe going for if they want to choose to go against Haaland, because Fulham do have the strongest defence out of these three fixtures that we've got available to us to target. Southampton, by far the worst, 1.89 expected goals conceded, as you can see in the fourth row down there on your screen, with Nottingham Forest not looking too bad either, as I said. So their defence has looked okay, 1.12 expected goals conceded per 90 across the season so far on average. Man City have looked the strongest attack, but Arsenal and Chelsea not a massive way behind. Remember, this is per 90 minutes though, so a little bit more significant. 2.20 compared to 2.08 for Arsenal and 2.02 for Chelsea. So Man City firmly leading the way there, I would say. And then Erling Haaland, on an individual note, has of course looked fantastic. And you can see what I was saying about Havertz's data not looking quite as strong as other premium assets, and not really looking like quite the captaincy option. If you were going to captain an Arsenal asset this week, I think it just has to be Bukayo Saka, who's predicted 7.6 points. So he's second to Erling Haaland out of these four options for what it's worth as well, with the big Norwegian up on 8.3 predicted points. So yeah, I do just think this is probably one of the game weeks to play it safe and go for Haaland. I thought last week I did envision Haaland it was just due his first blank of the season, and I think away at Newcastle, I've seen Man City struggle there in the past. I had a bit of a feeling that might happen. Lo and behold, it did. This week, I don't really have such a feeling. I'm not sure we'll see a hat-trick from him, but I think that I could definitely see Haaland grabbing 1 or 2 goals this game week. And of course, if you go against him and it backfires, that can be quite detrimental to your rank. Especially this early on in the season, it'll look worse than it actually is. But for now, I just do think that Haaland is the pick. It's not quite the fixture for me in the Chelsea game for Parma. I think Arsenal do have that fixture against Southampton. But again, I can just see a world where maybe Southampton grab a jammy early goal, Dibbling or Archer or someone runs through and grabs it, and then they sit in and manage to hold them off for at least 50, 60 minutes. So we might see that. We might see a complete whitewash by Arsenal, and I'll be sat here, eating my hat or whatever. But yeah, my 2 cents is Captain Haaland this week. It just seems like a sensible option. But if I had to go for another, it would be Bukayo Saka. So yeah, pretty boring advice that, but I hope nonetheless this video has been helpful to you in some way or another, even if it's just made you think about a few players or helped you in your own decision-making process for your own side. So thank you very much for tuning in, especially if you've watched all the way to the end. Leave a comment with any questions or queries you've got regarding FPL or any feedback you've got for the video. I'm always looking to improve on my craft, so thank you for that if you do choose to leave something constructive. But other than that, I'll see you for next game week. May your arrows be green for game week 7, and goodbye.